Lights, camera, debate, ignite, passion strong under the spotlight. Tune in for the clash, tune in for the spark, the critic and the cynic light up the dark.
And welcome back to The Critic and the Cynic. My name is Dave, and I'm going to be the critic with you this evening, and with me, as always, is...
Hilary.
Who's going to be...
The cynic.
That's right. So we are on to week 3, and yet again, we're taking a look at 6 more Christmas movies that came out this year so that you don't have to, because obviously... there's a lot of stinkers in the mix. Though this week is actually kind of interesting because we don't have to focus primarily on only Hallmark movies. We do have a mix of some Netflix in here as well. And while last week we had a Netflix film, we only had 1. This week we actually have 2 that we're taking a look at, so there's more of a balance here. Whether you're really excited to watch those Netflix films, that's another story entirely, but there should be a balance in quality and in narrative, I guess. I don't know.
Is there?
Yes, usually. There's usually, you could watch Hallmark and Netflix. They could both be crap, but you could usually tell that there is a distinct difference in how they're made.
Okay, so you're talking about cheap crap and expensive crap.
That's right.
At the end of the day, it's just crap.
Yes. Yes. If you want to limit it to that, yes. So, this week, once again, 6 more movies laid out in front of us. Once again, we haven't seen them yet. The first half of the podcast, we take a look at each film. We kind of judge it by its cover, look at the poster. We look at the tagline of the film, the premise of the film, and we kind of just predict on if the film is going to be any good or not. And the first film that's coming out that we're going to be taking a look at here in a little bit is a Hallmark film called 'Tis the Season to Be Irish.
I thought that was St. Patrick's Day.
Well, you know, last week we looked at a movie that felt a lot like Valentine's Day, so sometimes they just like to take the holidays and cram them all into one because everybody likes Christmas, but maybe not everybody likes St. Patrick's Day. Let's take a look. See here. Let's take a look at the poster. Very simple stuff. Very. I was gonna say very simple stuff, but you're like, oh, that's bad.
It looks like one of those animations that you used to do when we were little, and like you'd put your face on an elf and like Christmas card.
Oh, what was that called? The dancing greeting cards that you put your head on.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Because that is some really bad Photoshop.
Yeah, you know what I was going to say is, like, in the back of my head, I have this voice, this guy's voice, who I guess in my back of my head it's not an Irish accent, but why not? Let's have it be an Irish accent. And I'm thinking he's got this look on his face that to me screams, I got her now. She can't get away from me, because he's like behind her and he's got like this backward hug. And he's like, she has a fake smile on. All the while, like, everything's okay. What do you think?
I think he just farted.
The Irish guy?
Yeah. He has the look on his face. Like he just farted and she's supposed to be smiling and she's like, oh, god damn it.
Well, I mean... Sure. All right, let's quickly go over the tagline of the film, which says, "Old cottage, new love." Old cottage, new love. That is not a play on words, is it? Usually it is.
I don't know what that is.
There's probably... obviously the movie has something to do with the cottage. And in the cottage, there's some new love, as in the new relationship? I don't know. That seems stupid. Let's read the premise here. A house flipper heads to Ireland to renovate and sell a cottage but her plans change when she meets a local realtor determined to preserve his town's heritage. What does that mean?
I don't know, but it sounds so boring.
So we have an Irish guy with a stick up his butt, and he's like, "You're in my town now, and you're after me, Lucky Charms." And she's like, "Yeah, I just want to flip a house," because she's a realtor. No, he's a realtor. She's a flipper. Sometimes I think they're the same thing, but they're not. The flipper is usually the person who buys it, isn't it?
Yeah, they buy it low, they fix it up, and then they sell it higher.
Okay, so she's going there and she's meeting with him so that he can sell her the cottage, and then she's gonna flip it, but he's like, "Nah, don't do that."
Well, she might be taking like a historical looking
It's probably
cottage.
more than a historical looking. You're talking about Ireland.
But she's probably gonna try to make it all modern and sleek and
Have a nice, parking spot, and I don't know what flippers do. They do a lot of different stuff. I don't know why a lot of these movies center around realty.
There's only been 2.
That's more than enough. Realty does not scream Christmas. It's just weird. However, it has the potential to have a Yule log, I would say. Because it is a cottage.
Yeah, I think you're reaching.
I am reaching a little bit. Fiona Goobleman, don't know ya. Eowyn Mackin, don't know ya. Once again, a bunch of people that I don't know. So it could be either here nor there. The rating that Tracked.tv gives it is 66% based off of 36 votes. So it's actually quite a few people that actually tuned in. Based off of what we've seen in the past, it hasn't usually been that many votes, but...
Well, probably more people are going to tune in the closer we get to Christmas, because
yeah,
when it's October, early November, I mean, you only really have the diehard Christmas fans at that point.
yeah. So I don't know, this could be stupid.
I don't think it's going to be stupid, I just think it's going to be really boring.
It could be, yeah, it could be one of those things where it's just taking an easy route, but overall is just nonsensical to the point where there's no point to watch it. So that's the first of the 6 that we're watching in a little bit. But now we're going to take a look at the second film on our list this week, which is the first of the 2 Netflix films. And it is...
I don't even want to say it.
It's Hot Frosty. Hot Frosty. We've been waiting so long for this one.
No.
So long.
No. You've been waiting.
Look,
And
there's not that... Okay, I'm going to say not. There's not many. There's many. There's many Christmas movies that we're taking a look at this month. But there's only a handful that I've heard about in the least bit. And most of them are just the Netflix movies. Because I guess just Netflix has a better form of marketing their stuff. Hot Frosty came out November 13th on Netflix. You said... Where did you say the guy was from again?
He's from Schitt's Creek.
Okay, his name is Dustin Milligan, and it's Lacey Chabert, whatever, however you say her name.
And she is iconic in the Hallmark Christmas movies or Netflix, just Christmas movies.
Personally, I think that they're all iconic in the Hallmark Christmas trade because they're like in Christmas movies every single year, but I guess what makes it a little bit different is that she's on Netflix now instead of Hallmark?
Yes.
I don't know. So, here's the tagline of the film. It took a snowman to melt her heart. Yeah. Alright, so you probably already know where this is going. We've already talked about it a little bit in the past 2 episodes. But here's the premise of the film. When a young widow's magic scarf, that must be the red scarf on the poster, brings a dashing snowman to life, can he help her rediscover romance, laughter, and holiday cheer before he melts away? Okay, so this is your typical Pinocchio story turning into a real-life creature, or if you saw the movie Jack Frost, it's Jack Frost, just like in reverse. Because Jack Frost, it was a human that turned into a snowman. This was a snowman that turned into a human. Obviously, he's Hot Frosty. Now, but the thing about it is, are they supposed to be dating, or is he supposed to be like her wingman?
Well, I saw the trailer. I'm pretty sure they're dating.
Okay, well, that'd be fine. And you had made the mention, oh, well, it's not going to make any difference because he's just going to melt at the end. And I'm like, no, not if they turn it into a Pinocchio story. He turns into a real boy.
Okay, either way, it's gonna be awful.
I think it's going to be self-aware humor. If it's not, if it takes itself too seriously, then I would be on your side of the boat and be like, why even attempt it if that's the route you're taking? It needs to take itself incredibly silly, because that's ultimately what it is. According to Trek.tv, out of 252 votes,
Why would that many be? Ugh.
there's 63%, which is low. I mean, it's average. It's average for what we've been watching. But it is low based off of what you said. You saw an article saying that everybody's talking about it. But low rating doesn't mean it's not talk-worthy, I guess.
Yeah, because they're all busy talking about how awful it is.
Now, those are only the votes. Not everybody votes. If you go over to see how many people on here watched it, 1.2 thousand and then 1.6 thousand plays. So some people rewatched it.
Why?
Because it's so ridiculous. Some people are like, "Oh my god, you gotta watch this."
Because it's so bad, and they're just like, "Hey, you have to see this shit." Like, I don't understand.
It might be, or it might just be everybody's new favorite Christmas movie they gotta watch every year. This person said I lasted 27 minutes and I gave up. They hit the veto button.
Well, I hope that you hit the veto button, because I don't have mine anymore and I regret it.
Well, let's see. Oh, past Lacey Shepard and stuff, we had Craig Robinson. Okay, we got Joe Lo Truglio, who was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Lauren Holly, who is the girlfriend, or the girl that Lloyd was after in Dumb and Dumber. This once again, when it comes down to Netflix, they actually have cast members that I've heard of, which is cool. So I'm looking forward to it.
I am not.
Because look, the first one that I said, the last 27 minutes and they gave up, they rated it 1 out of 10. And the next person rated it 8 out of 10. So it's going to be a toss-up. The next person after that gave it a 7. And that's all I could see as far as people reviewing it. But I won't look too deeply into their comments until after we watch the movie, because I don't want to give myself too much of a heads up. But very interested in this one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next on the list, which is Christmas with the Singhs. Singhs.
Okay, well,
Singhs.
well, he's from Virgin River,
Okay.
which means this is probably gonna be pretty corny.
Well, Virgin River is pretty corny. So you're saying Benjamin.
At least I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so we have our tagline here of when worlds of tradition meet, magic happens. So we're talking about a mashup of different cultures. Like, it looks like Indian culture and American probably, which could be interesting, because I don't know how many different cultures celebrate Christmas, or their version of Christmas, or whatever. Do they have Christmas in India? Is it something similar? I don't know. I'm not that well versed in that kind of world. It could be good, because there's some stuff there that I like watching. So let's take a look at the premise. Newly engaged Asha Singh, honestly, I don't know how you say that name. I feel like I'm butchering it. And Jake O'Brien are excited to spend Christmas together, but their relationship is tested when their family's cultural and holiday traditions clash. Okay, so she's probably an Indian American. And they're getting married, so they're getting excited about Christmas, but it's their parents. It's more of a meet the parents situation.
Which, I mean, that could be fun.
Yeah, the meet the parents stuff is always an interesting choice. It says languages is English and Hindi, so it's not like you're going to have the parents come in and speak American while chastising her for having Indian American values. The parents are probably going to speak Hindi, which at least they're approaching it more appropriately, I would imagine. I could be wrong. Once again, we have a rating of like 63%, 25 votes, 111 watchers, 149 plays.
All right, then.
It could be good, could be hot garbage. Yeah, all right. So that was the third of the 6 that we're taking a look at this week. The next would be called Jingle Bell Run. Another Hallmark film. This one came out November 16th.
Oh, what is that? We have matching outfits. Okay, that's a problem.
It's probably tracksuits. So what we're looking at is a guy and a girl in a running stance, wearing identical outfits, probably a track type of situation. I don't recognize him off bat. We got Ashley Williams. I do recognize that name. Andrew Walker, Jason Nash. I do recognize Ashley Williams.
Isn't that the name of the actress that they kept talking about in the 5-year Christmas party? That she was iconic Hallmark?
It could have been.
Because that would be hilarious if that's the case. Because I swear it was an Ashley something.
It might have been, but she's in a few things. She's definitely in a lot of Hallmark movies. She's in some.
Yeah, that even makes more sense.
They all are, though. All of them. There's not a single actor that we've watched on Hallmark that hasn't been in several. Oh, she's Victoria in How I Met Your Mother. That's where I know her from. Okay. She was one of the possible mothers in How I Met Your Mother.
That is who they were talking about in that movie. They kept name dropping her.
Okay. I do think, if I remember correctly, in How I Met Your Mother, I do like her as an actress. But that was a while ago. Before she joined the cult of Hallmark. However, the tagline to this is Race to Romance.
That's lame.
Alliteration, I suppose, but other than that, it doesn't tell you anything. Let's read the premise here. Self-described bookworm Avery is paired with retired hockey star Wes to compete in a holiday race across America. The team struggles through themed challenges until romance runs its course. So this is another game, like Christmas Olympics, all right? Except it's just like one game, literally run across the world. It's an adventure.
It sounds like The Amazing Race, really.
Yeah.
But Christmas, yay.
You don't think it'll be any good? I actually like the poster, because if you think about what they did with the poster, it has them in between, from behind and in front of the lettering of Run. They had to do a little bit of maneuvering to get that to work the way they wanted to. And as somebody who messes around with Photoshop a lot, I actually appreciate the look of the poster. It's simple, it's festive, and it's not just copy-paste like some of the other ones have been. Maybe some of the things in the background, like the icons of places where they stop, but the actual titleage and the people in front, it's actually, I think it's pretty good.
I actually hope that it's really bad.
Okay.
Because if it is really bad and they specifically name drop this actress in other Hallmark movies as being like the best actress for Hallmark movie, that's just hilarious.
It would be hilarious. However, what did I say last week? I said, usually when it comes down to the scores that Track.tv gives it, we often fall in line with. And in this case, this has been rated higher than the ones we just talked about. It's rated 74% by 23 votes on Track.tv, which means if we fall in line like we have in the past, we're going to have an okay time with it. It's not always the case, but it could be.
All right, Ashley Williams, let's see what you got. Williams, let's see what you got.
All right, Ashley. All right, so that was number 4. We're going to be taking a look at the 5th film that we're taking a look at this week. This is also a Hallmark film. This one's called Confessions of a Christmas Letter.
Why is this set up like the trivia poster? Except that there's 3 people instead of 2.
Well, the trivia poster did not have a red background. This is not a very good marketing. If you've seen the poster, guys, it's a lot of red.
All right, we got an actress from The Office.
Yes, Angela Kinsey. Angela Kinsey, really the only one that I recognize is The Office. But if you guys cannot see the poster, what we're looking at here is a very, very, very red poster. The only thing that's not red are the people on the screen and I guess the lettering as well. Because what they're standing on, it looks to be a mailbox that's red. Behind them, they have red sky, red trees, and the floor beneath their feet is also red. There's just too much red going on in this poster. In the one that you talked about before, the Trivia at St. Nick's, they had very plain background where it was not red, it was a red question mark, but...
Well, no, I'm talking more of the 2 people on either side of... On that one, it was more of a podium.
They were leaning over it,
and this looks
one,
like a mailbox.
They're leaning on a mailbox.
But that's what I'm talking about, not the color scheme.
Yeah, I'm talking about the color scheme because I'm thinking about coming at it from a marketing perspective. a graphic artist perspective. I think it needs less red. But that's just me.
I like the red.
Everything is blending into each other. It's just
care.
bleeding. That's all I see. Blood.
Bold.
It's bleeding.
Red is bold. It's fine.
So Confessions of a Christmas Letter, once again, has Angela from The Office in it. I think that's the only one that I recognize. I could be wrong there. We have a rating on Trek.tv of 65%. Once again, it's falling into that ballpark of around 6 to 6.5, which is usually what we see. And we have the tagline of, their Christmas vision could use a revision.
Okay, that's not great either.
Okay, yeah. They're trying to go off of the rhyming of vision and revision.
You can't try to go for rhyming if you're just recycling the same word.
I know. I remember my poetry teacher saying the same thing, saying they hated whenever they saw that. Though it is in a lot of stuff.
It might be in a lot of stuff, but it doesn't make it good.
So, let's take a look at the premise here. Seti Rose, that's her name, Seti.
That's a name.
An eccentric matriarch hires struggling novelist Juan to write her holiday contest entry. A mix-up sparks gossip of Juan's engagement to Seti's daughter Lily, leading the family to play along humorously.
Okay, then.
Okay, so the only thing in there that sparked my interest was the holiday contest. It's not saying anything about what that is. It's saying her holiday contest entry. That doesn't tell me anything. It's like, holiday contest. What's the holiday contest? I want to know more about that.
Well, obviously it has to do with writing something. You
Obviously.
write a story or
Obviously.
a letter
It has
or-
something to do with writing. There's a mailbox. They're holding a letter on the poster.
Okay, there's probably a letter, like a write your best letter to Santa or something.
Oh my gosh. I guess. Christmas letter. Confessions of Christmas. Maybe the Christmas letter really has confessions. I don't know.
You know what? You know how people get together and they write that really weird braggy letter about all the wonderful things that happen to their family over the year?
No.
I bet you it's that. And then she's like, oh, and my daughter got engaged. And that's how they get the mistaken fiance
No.
issue.
Okay.
Because they'll be like, oh yeah, we did this and that and this. You've never seen anything where they
No.
have those braggy letters?
No.
All right.
Then again, you were always pretty big on thank you cards and stuff, which my family never was
Okay,
either.
But thank you cards are completely different than the braggy Christmas letter. Because that is a whole long letter bragging about all the positive
What's
things.
the point of bragging?
Well, it's not really bragging.
It's
Think
updating
about-
people what's going on with your life.
Yeah, but they only highlight the good.
Well, you're not going to say, oh, Merry Christmas. Ha ha. My dog died. You know?
No, they'll say something like, my dog went to doggy heaven.
That's
this
right, doggy,
year."
yeah.
So it's going to be like sugar-coated nonsense, whatever.
Okay.
Think of a really long social media post that like covers the whole year. There you go.
I guess. All right. I feel like that one's going to be boring.
Most likely.
I like Angela, but on her own, I don't know.
Well,
I know that she and two of the other girls, I think, from The Office are doing their own rewatch of The Office podcast, which is cool. On her own, again, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know either.
I just don't know why she can't be a patriarch and then be married to old matriarch, whatever, and be married to the patriarch, Dwight.
Oh boy.
That'd be great. Anyways, so that's the fifth. But the last movie that we're taking a look at is another Netflix film, and it's the one that you have been looking forward to.
I'm not looking forward to it. I find it hilarious.
Okay. So this one's called The Merry Gentleman. This one stars none other than Chad Michael Murray.
Yep.
It turns out he's a big Hallmark guy, too. He's a big Hallmark Christmas movie guy at this point.
Okay.
He probably was in a movie with Ashley Williams. Probably at some point.
That's not Ashley Williams. It looks very
No, this
similar.
is one of the daughters in Dan in Real Life.
Okay.
This is Britt Robertson. She's also been in a lot of different TV shows since Dan in Real Life. She's somewhat well known, more so now than she ever was during Dan in Real Life, which is cool. So her opposite of Chad is an interesting take, but I don't know if there's anybody else in the movie that I've heard of.
Isn't she like a little young for him?
most definitely.
He's in his mid-40s.
Yeah, mid-40s. Yeah, she could be in her 30s. I don't know. It's
All right.
I don't.
We'll go.
I
with
don't
it.
know. We'll find out later. So let's take a look at the tagline here, which is "A little sizzle could save the season." Now, guys, this could never survive on Hallmark. It is way too spicy.
Because it deals with male stripping.
Male stripping. We're talking about Magic Mike over here.
Magic Mike on ice.
Magic Mike on ice with some Jingle Bell magic chimes going. I don't know.
Because the only way that you can save Christmas is with a naked man.
That's a better tagline. A little sizzle could save the season. No, there's nothing better to save Christmas than a naked man. Good lord. Anyways, let's read the premise. To save her parents' small-town nightclub, a Broadway dancer stages an all-male Christmas-themed revue and meets a guy with all the right moves.
Oh, good.
It doesn't even say stripping on anything.
Okay, but I have seen
Yeah.
the marketing.
It's
and
like
part of the marketing is that Chad Michael Murray has come out with his whole calendar where he is half naked.
That's right.
For every month.
Is it an actual
It is an
calendar or
actual-
just images?
It is intended to be an actual calendar. Whether they're selling the calendars, I don't know. But there is a picture for each month, and it is all over the news.
Oh, good old Chad. Now, this is not... Okay, even though it is, I would say, too spicy for Hallmark, how spicy you gonna get? It's rated PG.
Oh, it's not going to be spicy at all. It's just going to be really funny.
He's gonna be shirtless.
With, like, little shorts.
I don't even think little shorts. I think he's gonna have blue jeans the entire time.
All right, you want to bet? I bet little shorts. I bet...
Oh my god.
I don't think they're gonna go any further than that, but I bet little shorts.
Little shorts. Who wears shorts? Chad Michael Murray. Okay, so now here's a really interesting prediction question, because I don't think any of them, if you're really not super excited for Married Gentlemen, then is there anything on this list that speaks to you the most?
No, in fact, I foresee a crap button coming up.
A crap button. Obviously, I'm the most excited for Hot Frosty.
Yeah, we know.
Hey, I like magic. All right, I like Christmas magic.
Not sizzle.
Christmas sizzle is fine. I don't know how they're
Oh
gonna
my God.
do it in PG. I mean,
It's gonna be.
I mean, you could at least do PG-13. Come on, it's Netflix.
No. It's way better that it's PG because it's just gonna be ridiculously funny.
All right, we'll find out if that's the case. But yeah, those are the 6 movies. Once again, 'tis the season to be Irish. Hot Frosty, Christmas at the Singhs, Jingle Bell Run, Confessions of a Christmas Letter, and The Merry Gentleman. All right, guys, gotta stick around. After the break, we're gonna sit through and talk about each of those films in length, about the best things about them, the worst things, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see if we hit some of those buttons that we have at the ready. I still have my crap button and my veto button. What do you have?
I have the unicorn and the crap.
She's got the unicorn and the crap. She cannot veto anything anymore for the rest of this season of the podcast.
You're so lucky because I would have vetoed Hot Frosty.
You cannot veto it until after we watch a little bit of it.
Okay, I would give you 5 minutes and then be like,
That's
veto.
not fair. It's not enough time for it to be tongue-in-cheek. Whatever, it doesn't
That's
matter.
fine. You're just lucky I don't have it.
Fine, fair, whatever. I think you vetoed the right one because we didn't need to hear more Christmas caroling. That's all I'm going to say about that. So stick around, guys, and we'll be back in just a hot second.
Approximately 10 hours later.
And we're back after watching several movies all at once. And let me tell you, what an experience it's been. As usual. So, we're gonna kick it off right off the get-go here with the first film out of the 6 that we're talking about, which is 'Tis the Season to be Irish.
Yep, and we called it. Super boring.
Definitely boring. It's not the greatest film that we've seen in this experience. I would wager, though, saying it's not the worst either. It's middle. I think it's mid-range. The thing that saves it, in my opinion, this is one of my positives and probably my biggest positive of the film, is the setting of Ireland. They filmed it in Ireland. They didn't just do like a weird back studio with weird backgrounds trying to claim it was Ireland. It was very clearly Ireland, which just the part of the movie alone that's like a screensaver is great.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the setting. I mean, Ireland's cool. That's all fine and dandy.
It's beautiful. Another positive I have to say about the film is that when it comes down to messages, I feel like it did have a very clear and consistent message in terms of accepting change, embracing change in order to, move on with your life in whatever way that relates to you. There's a few different characters, 3 or 4 different characters, all of which have to go through this change in order to embrace their future.
Yeah, that is true.
But the story left a little bit lacking for me. Remember, this is the story about a house flipper that buys a house from a realtor in Ireland in order to flip a cottage, and it just turns out to be a money pit situation where the cottage that she gets is a piece of junk, and so it's a lot harder than she ever imagined it would be to fix it.
Okay, but let's be honest for a second. Would you move to Ireland even if you had to live in a piece of junk cottage?
Yep.
Me too.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I mean, and she
hard,
acts like it's the worst thing in the world, and I'm just like, not really.
I don't care that you got a couple blankets on top of your cottage to make it look like junk. Take off those blankets, it already looks half better.
Well, no, I think the blankets were there because there was like holes in them.
Well, I'm sure it was trying to convince you that there was holes, but I'm like, there's not holes. However, there's this whole thing that we're trying to buy, or they're trying to sell it to you, that this tiny little girl is going to
completely
renovate this on her own in the middle of Ireland. And there's nothing about this that I buy. And it's not a sexist thing. I do believe that women are absolutely capable of doing it. But when you see her on screen, you notice that she's tiny, she's little, and she's not rough around the edges.
No, I would buy her more as a realtor,
yes,
and the guy more as I'm gonna flip the house.
Yeah, that would work. That would have worked a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, the guy is one of these characters. I feel like he's like a comedic relief type of character, but he's literally doing nothing throughout the movie. And the problem with that is I had a lot of issues trying to believe chemistry between them, because he's not doing anything. He believes in the history and the legacy of Ireland freaking cottages, which whatever that means, but as a character with charisma or chemistry with this woman, I just didn't buy it.
No, I didn't care about either one of them, and I am a type of person that gets very invested in characters, and I will cry when they have happy moments, I will cry when they have sad moments, I'll cry about pretty much anything. But no tears. Not even a little bit of watering. Nothing. No
misting.
Nope.
I looked at you and I said, the only storyline or character that I'm invested in is the main character's best friend back home, who's just pregnant. There's a pregnant lady. It's not part of the story at all.
Nope, she shows up for like 2 seconds in the beginning and 2 seconds towards the end.
Yep, that's it. But she looks like she's ready to pop, and I'm like, girl, you best get to the hospital right now. I'm waiting for a different movie apparently, because the one that we're watching right now it just leaves a lot to be desired. It's boring. It's beautiful, but it's boring. There's some good messages in there.
But it's boring.
And we just kind of keep coming back to this fact that it's boring. And I feel like I felt when we watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, in which we're watching, I'm like, well, they finally went to Greece, and it's beautiful, and it's a screensaver movie, but there's nothing happening, and nobody cares about anything, and it's just, why are we watching it? Because we get to see the Irish landscape, which is great, but that's all you can really say about it. So the positives, like I said, the screensaver visuals, which, I mean, it's a little bit of an insult to call them screensaver visuals, but at the same time, it is beautiful. And two, the message of embracing change and things of the nature. What would you say number 3 is? The sheep that follows her around?
No, actually, I was going to go completely different route, because the moment where we paused it and got the most excited is when they had a little bit of an Easter egg for a movie we've already seen.
Yes.
And so we're like, oh, okay, so they're just creating this whole Hallmark universe.
Yes. So somewhere in the middle of the movie, they were just kind of scanning through, it looked like Netflix, but it was probably Hallmark Plus or something. And they're reading off a description for a movie. The title was different, but the description was the same. They said something about a couple meet on a train, they fall in love, they lose each other, until they realize that they are, rivals at a job, which we just saw last week with our holiday story. So, and the reason why I believe they picked that as the Easter egg is because the screenwriter of this movie was also the same writer for our holiday story. She didn't create the story for this movie, but she did adapt it into a screenplay. So whenever you have that kind of power, it's easy to shoehorn in your own Easter eggs to make people smile a little bit, I guess, if they even saw that movie. We did, because we're watching everything.
Well, and if they remember or catch it, because it was like a blip and it's gone, like he reads a little line and we're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah, a blip and it's gone. So let's go ahead and rate it. We didn't give it any buttons, so it's safe, but what was your rating?
50? I just don't care about it at all.
50. Yeah, 50's pretty good. I'm gonna go 45.
Oh, so it's worse than just never gonna think about it again?
Look, the nice thing that I can say about it is that it's better than My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I thought that was garbage on a hill because there was no plot whatsoever. They missed the whole fact that was called My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and the entire family, or at least half of it, was gone. There was no story, there was no wedding. There was almost no point to watch it. There is a plot here. It is fixing up the cottage, okay? There's a reason that you're watching it. You're actually trying to see what happens here. So, logistically, it's better than that movie. But it's still not a great movie. It's still boring. And it still has all these issues. So, I'm going with 45 and you're going with 50.
I don't know. I still make the argument that it's middle of the road, because I'm never going to think about it again, ever, good or bad. But if I go lower than 50, I'm probably going to think about it again. Like, oh yeah, you remember that really horrible movie? But I'm just never going to think about this one ever again.
Yeah, it's not going to come up. If anything, you're going to remember that Hallmark movie that literally took place in Ireland. But that's it. That's all you got. That's because it's a gimmick. And it reveled in the gimmick, and there you go. So, 45, 50%, that's what we're giving it. But that means that we're going on to the next film on the list of 6 films that we're looking at. And the second movie is called Hot Frosty. It's time. Let's discuss one of the movies that I was most intrigued to check out, because it is a spin off of the classic Frosty the Snowman. And instead of a snowman coming to life, it's a snowman coming to life as a human being, as Hot Frosty.
Terrible premise.
No, it's not a terrible premise.
Yes, it is.
It's a great premise.
Okay, I have that's where I take the biggest offense here, because we are dealing with a widow, and she magically finds this new beau and a snowman who's constantly afraid that he's going to melt and die. And I'm like, that's just cruel.
It's not cruel. It is, she's jaded. She's jaded because her entire world has crumbled because of her past relationship and her husband dying of cancer. And so she does not believe that love can be a thing anymore. And 2, she doesn't know how to approach something like that again. So this guy showing up teaches her that love is still attainable and that she's going in expecting the worst because he's gonna melt at some point or whatever. That's the idea. I think that there's a good idea there. There's heart there, especially because this character is as innocent as a child and he just loves everybody and everything.
Yeah, she would have been better off getting a puppy.
Now who's cruel? Yeah,
well, come on. A puppy loves everybody. A puppy is innocent.
Yes, but a puppy is not going to fix the town and go around fixing everybody's problems. And
but why does a snowman need to go around the town?
Because he is
fix everybody's problems.
Because he. I love what not the director, but the writer of the film said is that hatred is nurture, it is not nature. So when the snowman is born into the world, he doesn't have any of this negativity associated. He didn't learn any of it, so he's just innocent, and he just loves everybody, and he just wants to help everybody.
Yeah, he's just born one day, but magically he can read. Okay, there's a lot of problems here.
Actually, I don't know. Can he read?
Yes, he did, because he saw the medical chart, and he's like, what's cancer?
I didn't realize he saw the medical chart. I thought he just found that out or something.
No.
But, besides the point, I like the concept that he is as innocent as a child. I didn't like that because he is that way, that it also has to be a love story with Lacey Chabbert's story. I believe he could be just this really awesome, inspiring, influential character that helps people in any which way, whether you're talking about fixing up houses or helping her realize that love is attainable and everything, but he himself remains innocent, right?
Okay,
I would have preferred that.
Well, the only way that he could have showed her that love is attainable is if he was like hooking her up or matching her up with somebody else, because that's like the whole
Yes, and that's
storyline.
fine. I would have been absolutely okay with that. I would have been completely on board with that.
I don't know. I don't think there's any way that you could have fixed this.
Well, I just said.
And I disagree. I don't know.
You came in expecting bad, and then you just saw bad everywhere you looked. I was looking for the best in the film and the best in everybody in it. I do not believe that they cast the right person for Frosty in this film. Not at all. I believe that they had a one-track mind here, and they said he's hot because he's got a bunch of muscles. And I didn't buy it.
But there's other actors that are hot and that have a bunch of muscles that are funnier.
Yeah, there was some people in the comments for this film that said it would have been a whole lot better if they had Andy Samberg in the role, because we had a couple of comedic people from sitcoms that did pretty well for what it's worth, but he didn't mesh with their comedy very well because I just didn't think he was the right person for the role. Andy Samberg would have played off that innocent experience pretty well, but he's not hot in any way, shape, or form.
It depends. I mean, I think he's attractive, but he's not traditionally what most people would consider hot, I guess.
No, he's not quote-unquote sexy. Not at all.
Well, again, I disagree, but
it's
traditionally.
We're talking about traditional here.
We're talking about like the standards that Americans put on beauty and attractiveness.
Standards and expectations, yeah. My experience with the film, and the reason why I was disappointed in it, is unfortunately has to do with casting. I do not think that he was the right person for the role. And because of that, it felt weird when they had this romance angle introduced. Obviously, it was going to go that route. But it felt weird because of how innocent he was. The only way to get away from that weirdness is to have the character grow and maybe not act as innocent as he did in the beginning, but become more mature.
Which I think happened. I think he learned over the course of the film.
Maybe a little bit, but not as much as I would have probably preferred.
But arguably, she learned too. She learned not to be so jaded and
Yes, and that's probably the most important part of the movie.
And that is the only positive for me is her storyline and her growth personally.
Yeah.
Because I can't personally relate to her storyline, but I know people who can. And so it was just nice to see her be able to like kind of grow and come out of that.
Yeah. I think one of the main problems that you had with this was the slapstick humor part of it.
It's not my kind of humor.
Right. That's the dumb humor part. You've never liked dumb humor. I have, so I appreciated it. Obviously, it has Craig Robinson, and everything that he's in, he acts the same way. Every time you ever see him on screen, he's always acting the same way. Same thing here. And the partner guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, same thing. He's acting exactly the same, I would say.
Not quite. I don't think he was like as gross as he is in Brooklyn
Is he
Nine-Nine.
gross in Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
He is. He's like to the point of being weirdly gross.
Okay. Well, he was just in this. He was just stupid.
Weird. He was just weird and kind of stupid. Yeah.
He was weird and stupid, and because of that, he was funny.
But a little bit more genuine, I would think. Realistic.
But this is where that Andy Samberg thing goes in. If Andy Samberg was in it opposite of Craig Robinson and his partner in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that would have been perfect. And then you mentioned they said cool.
Yeah, which he definitely did a lot in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, and it would have made even more sense just with the dialogue there. I said, in terms of comparing it to other movies, I had mentioned the Brendan Fraser caveman movie, the Encino Man, and you had mentioned Elf. And once you mentioned that, I also 100% agree with it, because you're talking about a very innocent person
dropped into a bunch of cynics.
And dropped into a bunch of, and his just positivity just kind of flows out and it affects the entire town. It's very much like that. And obviously it is a Christmas movie, so it probably is closer to Elf than Encino Man. But I think if Encino Man and Elf had a love child, you could see it as this. Overall, what kind of rating are you giving it?
I don't know. Maybe 55.
55. I would I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm going to give it 60, which is, I think, the very first rating we ever gave any of these movies, which was The Date Before Christmas. We gave it a 60, and I think it's in the same ballpark of that movie. I think it had promise. I think it had promise to have more of a tongue-in-cheek vibe. It didn't take itself too seriously by any means, but it also didn't have too many tongue-in-cheek jabs of making fun of itself. There was the one shout-out that you had mentioned that was a shout-out to Mean Girls.
Right, and Christmas movies.
Which was very similar, by the way, to the last shout-out that we saw, where they had shout-out to another Hallmark movie within a Hallmark movie. It was similar. It was something that was on TV. So, whatever. That's what I have to say about that. It's not that much of a tongue-in-cheek type of movie. I wish it was, though. I wish it was more fourth wall breaking, even.
And I'm gonna say that, like, I can see people having fun with this movie, but it's not for me.
Right.
And I don't think it was really for you, because you were expecting it to make fun of itself a little bit more.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it was just like, here's a movie about a snowman that turns into a hot guy. Let's go crazy with it, and
everybody just accepts it. Like, the whole town just is like, yeah, we totally buy that this dude is a snowman, and their excuse is, well, it's Christmas.
Well, it's
we can
Christmas,
believe in that
obviously.
kind of
It's
stuff.
Christmas,
And
guys.
so on Christmas, I'm just gonna walk around saying that I'm a penguin, and apparently I won't get locked up for that as a crazy person.
because
so.
it's Christmas.
Yep.
Whatever. So anyways, I expected more from it, ultimately. So now I actually understand where that rating on Track.tv comes from being in the ballpark of the 60-ish range. It makes sense why it's there. But yeah, that was Hot Frosty. That's the second movie that we're taking a look at, which means we've got 4 more to look at yet. So let's go ahead with the third film on the list, which is called Christmas at the Singhs. We can officially call this Singhs. That's how they pronounce it.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the film, to give you a quick recap, is the Meet the Parents type of movie where an American is hanging out, gets engaged to an Indian American girl, and so his culture and his family culture, they clash with her parents' culture as well. It's just great fun. It really is Meet the Parents, though, even down to narrative choices that they make from beginning to end. Lots of that is Meet the Parents.
Yeah, but I would say that this is a more realistic, grounded version of Meet the Parents. And I'll go out and say I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it to a limited amount. I only say that because I love and I cherish Meet the Parents, and this felt like a cheap knockoff to me, and it's almost at certain points I felt like they were trying to copy certain mannerisms as some of the actors had in Meet the Parents, and that's when I just felt like a penny saver version. But if you aren't somebody who loves that film, or even really has seen it at all,
I've seen it,
then you're not going to make that distinction that I did.
well, probably not.
Obviously, meeting of the parents, that's a very standard trope. We see it a lot. It's just that I prefer it in Meet the Parents, and as well as Guess Who with Ashton Kutcher and Bernie Mac. These were two movies that I look to when it comes down to Meet the Parents. But, like you said, it is more realistic, and I do appreciate how they approached the cultures going on. There's not a huge cultural shift. They answered the question on if they celebrate Christmas accurately, because I also Googled it, and basically, Indians celebrate Christmas if you're a Christian, right? It's much more about religion there than it is for us here, because we'll have the people here who celebrate because they're Christians, but also if you're not Christians, you still celebrate it in America. For them, they have to be religious, from what I understand, and they didn't shy away from that. They're like, yeah, it's pretty big for us because we're Christians, which is great. I didn't really sense anything in terms of different language barrier things going on. They were all speaking English.
Pronunciation. There was a joke about the mom.
Yeah, okay. But overall, like, when you look at this film and you expect it to be one way, I think it is. It's just, it's not as far as I would have liked it to be. But you said that you probably liked it more than I did.
Yeah. Well, I think the world is full of all of these wonderful, vibrant, and unique cultures, and representation matters. And so I really appreciate seeing that on Hallmark.
Especially Hallmark,
even if
yes.
It's a little bit subdued and probably not all that, I can't attest to how accurate or anything is, but I mean, even if it is kind of Hallmarkerized.
Hallmarkerized.
Then, I mean, I just appreciate seeing the representation.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Our leading characters here, they're not pristine, perfect, model, whatever, citizens. They're regular.
Yeah.
They're people.
I mean,
they're just people that you can believe.
They're people. They're still beautiful in their own
I didn't
regard,
say
but-
that they weren't. I'm just saying they're
But
not like magazine cover models or anything.
They're not going to be on the cover of Vogue.
Right. And you also had the racist, not necessarily racist, but questionable, definitely questionable grandma.
It wasn't a grandma.
It was his mom.
It was his mom.
So I call her grandma. They don't have children,
have kids
but
yet.
she's still old.
She was like your typical well-meaning but cringy moments.
Yeah, she's like, oh, one of my favorite movies is, insert Indian film here. And then she shows up to parties wearing cultural appropriation, like Indian garments and whatever.
She was trying.
Yeah, it's about as best you could say. Yeah. So, like I said, it has a very strong, very obvious inspiration from Meet the Parents. Not just the trope, but the actual movie. The characters, in certain ways, reflected them. A lot of their mannerisms and personalities were pretty similar, but like you said, a little bit more grounded. I guess it kind of comes down to preference.
And I appreciate being a little bit more grounded sometimes.
I mean, hey, there's a lot of movies that I love that are grounded,
well,
and if they ended up having stupid humor, I would hate them. For instance.
Yes, but you also like movies that are a little over the top because your humor is a little bit different than mine. But
Yes, but I usually appreciate any kind of humor, really.
Yeah.
That's grown over the years, but I do like to shut my brain off from time to time and things of the nature. And a lot of humor these days, a lot of comedies, even if they are stupid humor, there's nothing about them that sticks out, and they're boring as they are. Meet the Parents, I thought, was also smart in its dumb humor.
Yeah, that's fine. Rat Race, you know, that's like my favorite comedy movie of all time.
And that's dumb humor, but
It
it's
is,
smart
but it
dumb
is
humor.
set up so good.
That's why I consider both Rat Race and Meet the Parents to have smart dumb humor. I'm right. And anyways, go ahead and give us your percentage, your rating.
I'm gonna go with like a 65.
You're gonna go with 65.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a 55-60.
Okay.
I liked elements of it, but there's also elements of it where I was just like, alright, I get where you're getting that from. I can see where you borrowed that from. And then there's certain elements that felt more original, but I was also bored with. And then, I don't know, like, it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be.
Well, I mean, but you're not gonna get everything that you want out of these movies. It's gonna be like, alright, they're better than some.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you have it, folks. Now that we've talked about that, we have how many more? What is this, the third one? So we have 3 more to go?
I don't know. You expect me to keep track?
Yes. So, whatever yeah.
I think so. I think it's 3 more to go. But
We have 3 more to talk about. Starting with the next one, which is called Jingle Bell Run. Alright, so to give a kind of quick recap of what you thought it was going to be, because you like to judge things off of covers, you did not like the cover, the poster, none of that.
no, I did not. I assumed it was going to be pretty corny.
I don't know, like what I said with it was that I liked the poster because of the simplicity of it, as well as some very slight things that I noticed from a graphic designer standpoint on how they approached the lettering and everything, and I actually appreciated it way more than a lot of the posters that we've seen thus far, and that kind of just extends into the opening credits of the film, which were animated. And a lot of these Hallmark films, what you're going to get is an establishing shot of a drone shot over a city while music plays. This was actually, like, they had some work that went into it a little bit, and you could tell, and you had mentioned that it didn't quite feel like Hallmark.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, I would say more like Netflix, really.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like a full-blown studio theatrical film at all, but I would say Netflix for sure. A bigger studio at least.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I liked it quite a bit, personally.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think it had a lot of heart, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the same argument that I've made every single week while watching these films, is that one of them out of the bunch is kind of like a hidden gem. You think that they're all gonna suck, but usually like one out of them tends to be surprisingly good. The first week we had the spy film. The second week we had Santa Tell Me, the game show type of movie. And then this week would have to be Jingle Bell Run. I mean, there's a couple more on the list, but so far that seems to be a pretty good contender for one of the better films. In fact, if you look at the tracked rating for everything that we're watching this week, this is the one with the highest rating. Everything else is in the 60th percentage ballpark. This is 75 on track.tv, but everything else is 60 something.
Yeah, and this is the one with Ashley Williams, who was called out in the 5-Year Christmas Party as being like the queen of the Hallmark Christmas movies.
This is our introduction to Hallmark Christmas movies, so I can't say for sure. I know that by looking at all of these actors and actresses past, that almost every single one of them has a long history in the Hallmark Channel, especially with Christmas movies. So I don't know how they handpick her out of everybody else that's essentially doing the same thing. But I mean, there's something to it. Remember now, Ashley Williams was one of the contenders on How I Met Your Mother as one of the possible mothers. I remember really liking her in that. She's got a quirky, relatable, homey personality, which it looks like she just kind of carries wherever she goes.
Yeah, this was my first experience with her. And yeah, she's very down to earth, quirky, and very, very likable.
Yeah, it's like the modern Meg Ryan is what I said, but I mean Meg Ryan was way back 80s and 90s was when her popularity like ended.
I like Katherine Heigl.
Katherine Heigl, yeah, that too. I bet she has probably had a history in Hallmark Channel as well. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. But in general, our plot, it revolved around, like we thought, The Amazing Race, more or less, just the Christmasized version of it.
And I really didn't get a Christmas feel at all from this movie.
No, well, I mean, it was like the very first film that we watched, so that was all about Christmas Olympics that somebody had in their own family house. That's like that, except just blown up to proportion for the whole country. I don't know about the whole world. They just they stuck in here. They stuck in the USA, yeah. But essentially, they had to do some riddles, figure out where to go next, and a lot of the games that they end up playing are very much related with the holidays. And so if you look at it that way, it is related. It is a Christmas movie. Yeah. But it is kind of hard to note these things because, yeah, the plot's not really Christmassy.
Right, and you were so invested in the game and the contestants, that stuff just fell away anyway.
Yeah. So they could be doing anything because you're more invested in the characters. And it is fun to see them crack these codes and find out where to go next, but any of them could have done any of that.
Yeah.
So, overall, I think that it was a pretty solid film. I think we've listed off plenty of positives for this. I don't think we need to do any list of 3 positives, but do you think it's unicorn worthy?
I considered it.
I can't click my unicorn anymore, so.
I'm gonna save it.
You're gonna save your unicorn. Okay, it's definitely not a crap, and it's definitely not a veto. So, what do you rank it? What do you rate it?
I would say like 75.
I was thinking 75 as well when I was watching it. So far, that means that the highest that we've rated is the spy movies in the first week, which we rated 80, but we did rate a couple of movies 75% as well. This, as well as the 5-year Christmas Party. So that kind of gives you an idea of movies that we prefer along this list. But yeah, that is this one. We still got a couple more to talk about, starting with the next film on the list, which is called Confessions of a Christmas Letter. All right then.
That was a whole lot of crazy.
That was a movie. Tell you the truth, throughout watching it, especially in the beginning, I was considering hitting my veto. A little bit. Just at the beginning. I think throughout the movie it got better for me and I got more invested in it, but...
Well, because you had to embrace the crazy.
You had to embrace the crazy. A lot of people were saying, oh, this is the Get Out or some people said Misery version of a movie that's Christmas related. I have not seen Misery, didn't read it and watch the movie, so I can't speak to that, but obviously with Get Out. Have you seen Misery?
No, I have not.
Have you seen Get Out?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you saw Get Out, but I couldn't remember if you saw Misery or not, because I have not. But the idea there is that the family's just nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at it that way, some people had been commenting, other than Get Out or Misery, they'd be like, oh yeah, everybody in the movie, every single person is crazy and capable of murder, and I wouldn't have any other way. As soon as you embrace that, I think you can have a good time with the movie, but the reason why I was kind of hovering around my veto button was because I was bored at the beginning, and it was featuring a fancy pants family that does stuff that I cannot relate with.
Yeah, because you had never heard of this whole Christmas letter writing thing.
No, I don't know. People do this in a way on like Facebook, and they write down, oh, this is what happened during the year. This is what's going to happen soon. This is what we're looking forward to. It's just like a status update.
But, yeah, but that's like a modernized version of this Christmas letter, which has been forever. I've definitely heard about it. My family didn't do them, but we would receive some.
I could see you receiving some, but my family never received them. We never wrote them. So at the end, we didn't even send out Christmas cards, just like family portraits or anything like that. But I mean, I'm sure we've heard of that.
Well, yeah, it's just it's it's just a thing that people do. Some people do.
So the kind of the humor of the film kind of lays into that everybody's crazy thing, and the fact that the entire narrative centers around them hiring a ghostwriter out of Puerto Rico to write their Christmas letter for them. And the entire movie, from beginning to end, is basically about that, which is insane. I mean,
Well,
you're talking
yeah.
about one piece of paper that just updates people about your lives. That's what the entire movie is about.
Yeah, and you definitely have to suspend reality here because no one is going to believe that a novelist, especially one from another country, is going to get this request. I don't even know how they got it to him, saying, hey, why don't you come spend 2 weeks with my family and write a letter?
Well, it actually reminded me of another horror film that came out like this year, which was Speak No Evil, where it had a couple of tourists that are invited to some random person's home in the middle of nowhere for a week or whatever, and they're like, yeah, okay, no problem, let me just get on a train and go out that way. And it's like, nobody's that stupid.
No. So, in order to enjoy this movie, you have to suspend reality and you have to embrace the crazy. That's
basically it. And I think part of it that saved it for me, at least in the very beginning, was we got Angela Kinsey, obviously, Angela from The Office, and a little bit of a cameo from Kevin from The Office is in there as well. I wasn't expecting that. That was nice to see.
I did kind of expect that because I did see a Facebook post
Did
about
they? Oh, okay.
like he came out to support it, and it did say, oh, and there's a cameo, and I'm like, okay, but I didn't pay that close attention.
And it's always weird to see him not be in the Kevin role, the dumb, kind of role. Though, if you go back and you watch the first season of The Office, especially the first couple of episodes, he acts exactly like he does in this, where he's like a lot more normal, a lot higher pitched of a voice, and he's a lot more energized before he's just a big oaf. So I've seen it before. It's just weird to see him in that role. And like I said, it would have been nice to see Angela's husband if that was played by Dwight. That would have been cool.
I don't know. I liked her husband. Actually, I liked the casting in general. I liked everybody in this movie.
I was okay with, I would say, a majority of them. I liked the daughter. We mentioned that before. Like, she exudes that kind of warmth and fun feeling atmosphere that you get with certain actresses in these movies. Like, Ashley Williams had it.
Yeah.
But we also mentioned Katherine Heigl and
She reminded me a lot of Julia Stiles.
Julia
this actress
Stiles.
did.
Julia Stiles as well. So I was like, oh yeah, she'd be like a mix of Julia Stiles and Katherine Heigl or something. So she was fun. She just looked like she was having a fun time. Like, from the get-go, she was just playing along and she was having a good time.
And perfect casting because like the daughter was supposed to be kind of like a free spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe a little flighty, but just kind of always just following the next shiny thing, basically.
Yeah. So overall, I would say it was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I think so.
So what would you rate it?
I'm gonna go with like a 70. I thought this one was fun.
70%. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I started off pretty low. I always have a number floating in the back of my head when we watch any given film. And the number that was floating in my head when we first started was like 40. And then it went up a little bit. But not by much. I would say at max like 60.
So you're telling me that if you saw this one come on TV or something, and you had nothing to do, that you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this one was fun, I'll watch it?
Nah, not really. There's parts of it that I like. Just parts of it. I don't like the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with 60. You're like at a 70. But granted, I kept on going back and forth. Like, I started at 40. 60 is the highest. Like, I went down to 50 for a second. I went back up to 60. So I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt by saying 60. But I could go lower.
Well, here's a question for you. This family is just like quirky and fun. Would you join the family if they were your neighbors and they just had like, "Hey, come join us"?
Would I join their family?
Yes.
I feel like they're going to murder me. I don't know.
I don't know. I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm down with this."
I like their silent tango. That was fun. Disco, whatever it
because
was.
your mom does them.
Yeah, the silent things. All right, then. So that was Confessions of a Christmas Letter. Now we're going to go on to the next film of the week, or actually the last one that we're talking about for this podcast episode, which was called The Merry Gentleman. So there you go.
Yep, that was something.
Well, it was something. It was Magic Mike versus A Christmas Story. Which I found is actually pretty funny is that the Magic Mike parts were these guys stripping to Christmas music, which is ridiculous.
Actually, that was the only part I liked.
Well, if you think about Christmas music is also Christian music.
Okay, but this was modernized Christmas music, with that heavy beats, and it was not traditional Christmas music. I was fine with that.
Okay, so we have Britt Robertson, we got Chad Michael Murray, which the very first week that we were talking about Christmas movies, we also had what's-his-face that's in One Tree Hill now, but we were waiting to see what this was all about, because obviously Chad Michael Murray was much more popular on One Tree Hill than that guy was.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's more well-known in general, even though he's been kind of skating by with popularity for a while. Britt Robertson, on the other hand, she's been in a lot of stuff. I know her first and foremost from Dan in Real Life as the middle daughter, but she's also been in a ton of things since then, so I know that she's talented. I know she's been pretty popular in recent years, so it's cool to see her here. I think she did a pretty good job. Story-wise, I think the film's more or less lacking. There's not much to it.
No, there really isn't.
I mean, yes, it's Magic Mike. Yes, it's kind of silly because it's PG, but when you're talking about what they're actually doing, it's a charity event, this stripping thing, in order to save this.
Well, it's
like,
to save her family's
business.
bar, restaurant, whatever it is.
Yep. Obviously, the more they do that, the more money they can get. But for the most part, I didn't really care that much about it. I don't even feel like the parents cared all that much about it in the long term. I didn't feel that from them. Well, it just seemed like they just, whatever, let's just do a stripping movie.
The parents actually seemed pretty resigned in the beginning, kind of like, well, we had our run, that's fine.
Right. There's a lot of things that felt like it was forcing these characters to move in a certain direction. Britt Robertson's character was forced to go back home because she was fired from her job as one of the Jingle Bells. And Chad Michael Murray is playing a character named Luke. Of course he's playing a character named Luke. They had to pull that card because his name is Lucas in One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
He's a handyman. He's a handyman in One Tree Hill-ish. Mechanic. He turned into a writer later on, but the way that it started out, he was a handyman.
And in that show that we saw one episode of, I feel like he was a maintenance man.
Yeah. I think as far as his performance goes, I don't know. What do you think about it? I think he was mostly just kind of calling it in most of the time. Like, he didn't care to be there.
I felt that way about everybody. Everybody was pretty mediocre.
I don't know about everybody. I think that Britt Robertson was having a...
That's just because you like her. And I like her too. I've seen her in other things. But she really was just mediocre.
Well, I also think that about the other dancers. I think the other dancers in the event were having a blast just dancing. I think that the older people in the movie were having fun just at, whatever. Like the one guy, the older guy that joined the strip club, and then the grandma who's played once again by one of the... Or not the grandma. She's old, okay? The mom. Okay, the mom of Britt Robertson was played by one of the aunts, once again by Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So that's actually the very first time I think we've seen one of the actors show up twice in our event. I was not expecting it to be her. There's somebody going to be showing up again next week as one of the main characters, but we'll get into that in the next episode of the podcast. But as it is, it was kind of cool to see her show up and everything. I was actually expecting this movie to be funnier than what we got. I feel like it took itself a lot more serious than I thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, they could have focused more on the... Because they had the premise that they just pulled these random guys from these random positions Like, I think one was a cook, like a chef or something.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where the other guys came from. A bartender, maybe. And then the handyman were your initial three. And then later it was a taxi driver. These random guys who don't have a background in dance at all. And they didn't even really focus on the oopsies. Because obviously, it's not an easy thing to learn choreography.
No, but I will say that none of the choreography was really all that great in the movie whatsoever.
It's not, but I can't do choreography.
Well, no, but you're talking about somebody who is from Broadway trying to choreograph this stuff, and I didn't really get that out of it. You had mentioned that a lot of the dance moves seem to be taken directly out of Magic Mike.
Yes.
And I looked at you. I said, yes, it's probably true, but more so like the very cheaply done version of it, because I could see where you're coming from, but at the same time, it did not look as pristine as in Magic Mike. But that's okay, because they aren't professional, so they're not supposed to. It just... A lot of the dancing in this didn't really do anything. It was just whatever. It's a small town. I guess it doesn't matter.
And I was disappointed. I thought for sure we'd see some little tiny shorts
No,
on the guys.
no tiny shorts. Kind of like what I expected from the get-go is that they would be wearing blue jeans pretty much the whole time, which is what they were, other than the one time they had a different costume, but it was still, they had suspenders and long pants.
And they had black pants.
Black pants at that point, but mostly... They stuck to the rugged blue jean look.
Which is fine. I mean, you're dealing with a small town, and they're just having this attraction with these handful of really, really buff guys. And I'm sorry, but we live in a small town, and I don't buy that you're going to find all these buff, super attractive guys in a small town. But beside the point.
Besides the point. Oh, no. Sycamore Creek. That's where all the hot guys are, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Just pluck them off the street.
And I noticed you didn't use a unicorn button on this.
Was I supposed to? Because I was not impressed.
I wasn't really that impressed either. It was fine for what it was worth. It's basically, you get what you expect, and that's more or less what it is. What would you rate it?
55.
That came out pretty fast. I would... 55 is...
Slightly more entertaining than average, put it that way.
It has its moments. But otherwise, yeah, I would agree with you, 55. So, we have our 6 movies that we just took a look at. How would you rank them?
Alright, let's go. The Jingle Bell Run.
Jingle Bell Run was the best of the best out of all 6 movies this week.
I would say the second best was The Confessions of the Christmas, whatever that says, Christmas Letter.
I would not agree.
Okay, then third I would say is Christmas with the Singhs, and then it'd have to be Merry Gentlemen, Hot Frosty, and the worst was Season to be Irish.
Season to be Irish. My ranking from worst to best probably is similar to yours, but a slight difference with Confessions of a Christmas Letter. So my worst would be 'Tis the Season to be Irish, and then probably Confessions of a Christmas Letter. I probably have that as second worst, because remember, I was considering vetoing it.
That's fine, but I was fine with that. I thought that one was a lot more fun than I anticipated.
Yeah, and then I would probably go Hot Frosty, Christmas with the Singhs.
So you're saying that the
Merry Gentlemen, Jingle Bell Run. I don't know.
There's no way that Merry Gentlemen was your second best.
I'm trying to. You're right. It's not that good. I'm trying to think for sure how I did this, because I don't even remember what we rated everything, but definitely 'Tis the Season or Irish is the worst, and definitely Jingle Bell Run's the best. This is the 2 that we agree on.
Yeah, and then I don't think it really matters what order.
Everything else is pretty much blended together.
That's the problem. It's just everything else was just kind of there.
Yeah, the other ones are pretty much forgettable, but every week there seems to be a clear winner and a clear loser. That's what I'm getting out of this podcast every single week.
Yeah. And 2 weeks in a row, the clear loser was the first one of the week.
That's
just
true.
Awful.
It's almost like they know, so they want to start you off on something where you're going to forget about it by the end of the week. But that's the week. That's the episode of the podcast. And for the next 4 weeks, we will be talking about 5 each, because there's 20 more movies to talk about.
Thank goodness, because that's a lot of movies in a week.
It is, but it's been an experience. It's been an experience.
Not a great experience.
But the thing about it is, you got to remember now, because it was clear winners, clear losers up to this point. Might not be